Good morning, everyone. Going to get, another minute to let people file in. While we're doing that, I'll introduce myself. I'm Gary Rich. I'm the editor-in-chief of Soundings Trade Only, which is a great job that I'm really happy to have, and it's great to be in front of you guys. And I'm really excited to be talking to these folks. A lot of people don't know it, but I worked at the Apple store for 6 years just for the grins of working around some great product and technology that I was interested in. So talking about this stuff with these guys is going to be a treat. There's so much going on in technology these days, and it's just going to be nice to look into the crystal ball with these people who have a collective, professional careers, totaling probably 50, 60 years altogether, maybe even more than that. So we're not going to talk about phones or iPads or laptops today. What I want to do first, though, is introduce our panel. First, I'd like to introduce Jarrod Seymour in the middle. He's got more than 26 years of experience at Garmin, spanning multiple product segments, including outdoor, automotive, and marine. He's got a strong foundation in electrical and software engineering. He's led projects for product design teams for more than 20 years. Jarrod has played a pivotal role in Garmin's marine segment since 2013 and was named Marine Business Segment Leader in 2018. Next to me here is Zach Hutcheson, who is Chief Financial Officer at CorrectCraft, which is a 100-year-old company with global operations. Zach will become CEO of CorrectCraft in April 2026. He'll be taking over for Bill Yergin. CorrectCraft subsidiaries include 8 boat brands, 4 engine brands, 3 water sports parks, and entities devoted solely to vertical integration and innovation. The company has manufacturing facilities across 70 countries. Zach joined CorrectCraft in 2014 and has held a variety of key positions, including Vice President of Finance and Accounting, Corporate Controller, Finance Manager, and Strategic Analyst. Last but not least is Michelle Hildyard. She's the Vice President of Operations at Raymarine and FLIR Maritime. She has more than 20 years of leadership experience in marine electronics. In her current role, Michelle oversees engineering, supply chain, product management, and marketing. She's passionate about innovation and sustainability. She's driven by operational excellence and guides teams to deliver intelligent, sustainable, consumer-focused solutions. She also actively champions women in the industry, regularly participating in panels and industry events. So the first thing I wanted to talk about today is kind of the big ugly gorilla in the room, and I think across business, not just in our industry, that's artificial intelligence. We're all kind of figuring out what pieces it plays, in our companies and how we're running our companies. But I wanted to find out from these folks how they're going to bake artificial intelligence into their products and their operations. So Michelle, can you tell us what sort of artificial intelligence FLIR and Raymarine are baking into products currently, and maybe just touch a little bit on what you see looking forward?
Absolutely. First thing to answer that question is about AI is why we're so interested in AI. And for me, that's about how AI can really enhance people's boating experience. So for me, I've got a passion, and I think the whole industry does, of getting more people into boating and, more importantly, retaining them in boating. And to me, AI is the fundamental to be able to achieve that. At Raymarine, we started looking at AI over 10 years ago, and our first product was a thermal camera called the M232, which was the first at detecting people in the water. Since then, we've really continued our journey with AI. We had a Raymarine Clear Cruise augmented reality product, which then started sensor fusion. We looked at both AI and fusing AIS to start being able to identify the targets. And now what that enables us to do is really make people safer on the water and enhance situational awareness. And I'm really excited because imminently we're going to be launching our new series of thermal cameras. And these are going to be able to identify, detect, classify, and track objects in the water. And this is really important for recreational boating because people can use them at night time. It will identify objects, navigation buoys, objects in the water to help really enhance the situational awareness and make it safer for you in the evenings and at low light. The other thing that's really interesting is man overboard situation. So if someone falls in the water, this camera will be able to not just identify and find that person, but it can then track that person. So as you're turning your boat around, you can actually then come back and find that person. It keeps eyes on that person for you the whole time. Not just useful for recreational as well, but also in law enforcement. We know that there's a lot of high-speed interception boats that need to happen, and this is a great tool it will be for our law enforcement because it will be able to track very fast-moving boats, stick to them, and then be able to intercept them. Nice.
Zach, I wonder if you could talk about how AI is playing a role in boat building. You guys, I would say primarily a boat building company. How are you guys implementing it? And what do you see as the future in boat building using artificial intelligence?
Yeah, so I'll first start with really the concept. I'm a big believer that if you're not thinking 5 to 10 years in front, you're 5 to 10 years behind. And AI is a great example of that. We're right on the forefront of that within our organization. We're looking at ways that we can implement that technology to solve problems. Unless we're solving a problem, it's just a technology, right? So that's really been our focus. There's been a couple areas within our operations that we're looking to implement AI that are big pain points. So we've got some really talented team members that have been with our companies for 20, 30, 40 plus years, and they're looking at retiring, and they have a lot of very deep tribal knowledge. We're looking at ways to use AI to help move their thoughts forward. And as our customers call and they're having a problem with their 20 or 30-year-old boat, how can we take information from all these different places within our ecosystem to answer questions from our customers very quickly? But what I mean by that is not that we're going to have computers talk to our customers. Mm-hmm. We're a really customer-centric business. But AI can help our team members answer questions to our customers that are accurate, that are timely, and they can help our customers get back on the water very quickly. So we're looking at areas like that to use AI within our organizations to really enhance the customer experience and move us forward.
So it sounds like right now AI is very good for operational business.
For sure.
Maybe not necessarily baked into boat building at this point, but something that you guys are looking at and want to implement.
So AI is the convergence, the power is the convergence of all this information, right, to make well-informed decisions. So we're also looking at some areas within the boat building process that we can have work instructions, things like that. AI can really be a huge assistance to the actual operation step is through robotics. But we're just really on the forefront of that. We're really on the forefront of that.
Jarrod, what's happening at Garmin with artificial intelligence?
A lot of different things. I think that AI is one of these terms that everything gets wrapped up under, and I think that's part of the good and the bad of AI right now. There's stuff that's basic, just automation that everybody's calling AI. We're kind of all across the board on what we use. We do a lot of automation. We're doing machine learning, so similar to some of the things Michelle said, like we do object recognition with camera systems and things like that using machine learning, and that kind of falls a little bit under the umbrella. I think with the full, large language model type AI, we're trying to be pretty careful with that. There's a lot of confidentiality issues, and anything
Sure.
you give it will take and keep forever, and so you got to be a little bit careful about what you're sharing with these full-on AI models. So a little bit of cautious approach.
Understand.
Yeah.
The next thing that I find really interesting over, thinking about the last 8 years in the industry, 8 years ago, Hinckley bought the Dasher to market, and that was kind of really the first push with electric boating. And I feel like we're in an age now where autonomous boating is the next big thing, and maybe not fully baked yet. Michelle, can you talk about your guys' approach to autonomous boating and where you see that headed?
Certainly. I split autonomous boating into two areas, recreational and commercial, and I think they have a very different approach, and it's how we're looking at approaching them. For recreational boating, people buy their boats and they actually want to drive their boats. They enjoy the driving of the boat. So for me and at Raymarine, we look more at how can we do our philosophy is more of a step-by-step approach to autonomy. How can we assist people in their boats rather than drive it for them? we have a product called DocSense, which we brought out probably 4 or 5 years ago now. And that's a real example of how we're assisting navigation. Docking is probably the most stressful part of anyone's boating journey. And we want to take that away, but still have the owner in charge of their boat. So we've created a system that uses stereo cameras, and it you can situationally understand everything that's going on around your boat. It creates what we call a virtual bumper, and you could put the throttles over as hard as you like, and that boat is not going to hit anything that it's noted around it. And that's where I think from a recreational point of view, that's where our sort of philosophy and focus is. When it comes to things like commercial, then I think full autonomy is something that's really, has happened and is going to come very soon, and I think is really critical. There is the cost-saving aspect of it, so, don't like to talk about with the crew, you would need less crew with a fully autonomous boat. That is, it's a cost saving for the boat builders, but more importantly, the operators as well. They could save thousands and thousands of dollars by getting the correct routing, leaving at the right time. We're looking at the tide, so that intelligent routing is actually where autonomy is going to really help those operators. The biggest growing market, though, I see for autonomy at the moment is in the USV, and I've been told it's uncrewed surface vessels, not unmanned. I got corrected the other day. And that is just a huge growing market where we see a lot of potential. We offer radars, our cameras again into that market. And we're seeing more and more now with new chip technology with AI at the edge, where that's going to become a real reality. So rather than having to send all the information up to the cloud to be processed and come back down, that can all be done locally offline. And I think that's going to be a real big advancement for USV market.
Zach, I wonder, you guys do have a broad spectrum of boats that you build, but I think you guys are best known for your water sports boats. Is there any place in that market for autonomous boating, or something that may be scaled down that is an assistive sort of technology?
Yeah, for sure. First, I want to start with the distinction between autonomous boating and autonomous vehicles, right? So an autonomous vehicle is working off a grid system. Right, so you're following a street, the stoplight says green, yellow, red, it tells you when to go, you can turn left, right, but in the marine industry, it's just a different scenario. There's no grid, you have waves, you have other objects, a lot of the things they're working on, they're having to overcome hurdles that the car industry just isn't having to deal with. So the way I view autonomous vehicles, or autonomous boats, is a building block. So building blocks into full autonomous. I'm really excited about some of the things that our teams are working on and some of the other companies in the industry. And I think really the building block starts with visual awareness. So a lot of the things that you just mentioned where you have to identify objects, right, in the water. Visual awareness within the vessel. We can do things with visual awareness that can identify people in our boat and actually tell them where's the more optimal place to sit in the boat to have better performance. Right, so that's kind of that foundation, the visual awareness. Then you start having alerts. So it starts saying, hey, you need to do, driver assist. Then you can start having minimal control, especially around those pain points, the docking, the, really challenging high traffic areas, and then full engine control. But I'm a big believer in going in this roadblock. And then along that journey, you've got to look for ways to solve key customer problems. Because a lot of times with technology, we say, we're going to start here, we're going to learn, but we have to put all this money in, but the real customer win doesn't happen for 5 to 10 years. But if during that journey, you can start creating opportunities for our customers to have better experiences on the water, you're walking them along that path with us as we make those big investments in technology.
So it sounds like you're more, with current technology, a proponent of assistive boating more than full autonomous. Is that right?
You've got to get really comfortable with that before we go full autonomous.
Gotcha.
Get really, really comfortable. But it's a building block in that direction.
Jarrod, Garmin has done a lot of collaboration in this area. Can you talk about when you see this? Maybe I'm wrong and you guys can correct me, but it feels like autonomous boating isn't completely fully baked yet. So I wonder if you could talk a little bit about your partnerships that you've done at Garmin with other companies and where you see the roadmap for autonomous boating going.
Sure. Yeah, I definitely agree. It's not completely baked for sure. I think there's a lot of companies out there trying to help dock a boat automatically. I mean, and that is the most stressful thing, like Michelle said, that for a boater to do. I think what you're asking about the partnerships and things, that's really our approach at Garmin to it is we want to build the right tools to help the engine companies, to help the boat builders design, whether they want to do full automation or they want to just do automated docking or just even some piece of it, whatever they want to do. We're trying to build the tool set and have all of those to help our customers essentially achieve what their goals are. So trying to support it every way we can.
So you have an engineering background. I guess my question is, it sounds like autonomous boating is hard to do. It's a hard task.
It is, and it's a different problem, I think, than the car side, like Zach pointed out. That there's a lot of, in the car side, there's one benefit that the road doesn't move. Plus, there's a lot more detailed mapping and things like that available for roads than there is in the water, and things change. The sand changes, things like that change. It's a dynamic situation more than some of the car examples. So I think it's just going to take time, and I think everybody is trying to take a stepped approach to it for the most part, from what I've seen, and we're trying to be part of that and provide the best technology to help with it.
So pivoting from something that isn't fully baked to something I think is fully baked is, and something that boaters expect these days is connected boating, being able to take a look at their boat, see what the battery voltage is, how many cycles their bilge pump is done. Zach, how are you guys using this at Correct Craft to improve the boating experience?
Yeah, and I totally agree with you. This is here, and we really need to have this part of our product roadmaps, and their Correct Craft companies have been focused on that. So in 2019, actually, Correct Craft, coming out of our innovation lab, started a company called Osmosis Technologies. So Osmosis is our telematics platform. We have over 10,000 units in the field right now of connected boats, and that's primarily through our Nautique brand and our Centurion and Supreme brands. It's a game changer.
Yeah.
It's a game changer. Oftentimes we liken it to what we do with our vehicles, but it's way more powerful than what happens with our vehicles, because we're not with our boats all the time, right? So on average, you're using your boat 15, 20 times a year. The rest of the time it's sitting, and sitting boats, have problems. I know, for instance, I keep my boat about an hour away from where I live. And so when I show up, I want that boat to start. I want the battery to work. If I need to get fuel, I need to know that before I get there. And unlike my vehicle, where I parked it in my driveway the night before and I knew exactly where it was, I can't oftentimes remember the last time, how I left that boat. So connected boats, they're just a requirement now. And really proud of what our Osmosis team, our telematics company, has put together. They focused on diagnostics, so we've started integrating that with our engine platform. So, when a customer goes out on one of our products, we want them to have an amazing experience. Mm-hmm. And if we can identify problems before the user knows that it's a problem, and we can connect with our dealer, and the dealer knows about it, and they can go correct that at the right time. They're not working on it on Saturday when they should be out,
Sure.
with the boat. They're working on it Monday to Friday. The dealer, that's really important to the dealer, so that getting qualified labor is a big challenge at the dealerships. If they can schedule that Monday to Friday instead of a hot item Saturday when they have a really upset customer, that's good for the dealer network. So integrating all of that into one single platform is really powerful, and it's not the future anymore. It's already here.
Nice. Michelle, would you like to talk about connected systems and what you guys have going on at Raymarine? Do you see it as a fully baked technology right now, or do you see room for growth?
Oh, there's room for growth as well, but I think, Zach, you're 100% right. It's that people only using their boat for a short time of the year, and when they get to the boat, you want to maximise that time they have in the water. You want to be able to check that you've got enough, what fuel level you've got, all these things before you get there. And I think that is where we in the electronics industry can really help make that happen. So we started probably about 10 years ago with a partner doing remote monitoring, and then we've designed our own product as a Yacht Sense. It's got an ecosystem. It's a bit before Starlink, so we had things like a digital switching system. We've got a 4G router, and we've got an app. So sort of basic remote monitoring, see basic things. But we know we needed to go a bit further than that. And about 3 months ago, we acquired Maritron, which has really changed for us how we can support what I think you're trying to achieve on the boat, Zach, which is basically having that full connectivity. And Maritron brings with it a full suite of products that, it's got all the sensors now. So when a customer wants to have a full system to be able to see what's going on their boat, they can use a lot of the Maritron sensors and the systems to be able to put that system together to monitor what's my fuel level, is there a security alert going off, is there a bilge alarm going off, and what does it mean? And they've got a great technology called M-Connect, which takes all the data from all the systems on the boat, pushes it up to the cloud, and that's where you can start getting really clever, and you can start thinking, okay, so predictive maintenance, this technology can now start telling us when do I need to maintain my boat, my engines, anything on the system, but also start identifying problems. It can start learning. Boat has operated this way for so long, and then all of a sudden it's not. Is there a problem? Is there something we need to actually be looking at? I think that's really where the technology from the electronic side where I'm in, is that's how we're going to support, I think, what you're trying to achieve, Zach.
So Jarrod, I'm going to pivot to the engineering bit of this again. We all kind of know how this tech works, and we all know what boaters are expecting. Where do you see this technology advancing? What kind of new things do you think are going to be coming out that people don't have now that are related to connected technology?
Well, I think it is here and now, and it's been there for many years. I think what is changing around connected technology is it's getting more accessible. So I think marinas, have a lot better Wi-Fi connectivity than they had 5 years ago. There's satellite connectivity. We have a connection through satellites through our InReach program that you can send pictures, messages, things like that through. All that is getting more accessible, and I think that's going to drive some more use cases besides the standard thing that is kind of out there broad now with battery monitoring, things like that. So it is nice to know when my brother steals my boat, though, so because I get a nice alert the minute it leaves the dock.
It doesn't put fuel in it.
Yeah, of course not. And then I can measure how much you use. So.
Yeah.
But no, I think it's more accessible, and there's a lot of new technologies that are just getting higher bandwidth out there that has been pretty limited in the past.
So we've talked about artificial intelligence, we've talked about connected boating, we've talked about autonomous boating, and I was thinking about this last night, and I think my biggest question was, what's next? So we've got these three pieces of technology, obviously there's electric propulsion, which is still kind of trying to find its way between hybrid and electric propulsion. Just kind of a random off-the-cuff question is, Michelle, do you have a crystal ball that you can look into and say, I think this is a good technology for the marine industry that we might be seeing, coming up?
To me, I think we've only scratched the surface of cloud data. I know we've talked about it a lot from remote monitoring and things, but with the prevalence now of Starlink coming out, I think there's still a lot more to come in that area. And so I think we should be looking, there's chipsets and silicon coming out there now with a lot more security in it, because when you're pushing stuff to the cloud, there's a lot of data security around that. And I think now we're seeing the technology that's able to support that. I believe we're going to see a lot more in that area. So we've talked a lot about it, but it's things like better understanding of your customers. So actually not just what their boat's doing, but how are they using their boat. From a boat builder's perspective, it's great because you can look at how's the customer using the boat, what do I need to design better. From an electronics point of view, it's getting all that information from the customer, understanding how they're using their electronics, what features and functionalities they're using, because then we can design products that are going to meet their needs and wants. So it's not about just, you say, the next technology, this is a great technology, I think this is going to be a great feature, I'm going to put it in my product. It's more about actually what are the customers doing, what are they using, where can you see their pain points, gathering all that data, analysing, and actually, spending more better value out of product development into finding products that people are actually want and use. Makes
sense. Zach, I'm interested from a boat building perspective. I've been to tooling factories and I've been to large boat building operations, and it seems like robotics is something that's starting to be kind of toyed with. There are some sanding robots, there are definitely some welding robots. Is that an emerging tech area that you guys are seeing a lot of growth in?
For sure, for sure. So robotics are really interesting to me. When we first started looking at robotics 8 to 10 years ago, they were very complicated, and it took a lot of. You had to grow your software team to write the code to have the robot do exactly what you want to do. That is changing very quickly. Robotic integration now is much easier with much smaller teams, and frankly, it's something we need to be investing in. And through our Watershed innovation team, we've been looking at robotics, and actually we're just launching a new robot in our Orlando facility this week, an end-of-arm tooling robot. And what's really neat about it is we identified an area within our operations that was really challenging for the operators. It was an unsafe work cell, and so the operator said, we need help here. We need a robot. And so they fully embraced it. And when you have your team that's working on the floor with the robot embrace it, your success rate is much higher, much higher. And so we've had a couple projects that we have played with that we were kind of forcing, but this one, they pulled it. And so I think that's really gonna be widely accepted. But with that said, my view on robotics are you have to, because there's so much variation in product, and robots don't like variation. When you have when you're going through a robotic plan in your facilities, start at the beginning. Because if you can create product at the beginning with a robot that fits within a very set standard, the variation's much smaller, then you can implement robots throughout the rest of the factory. If you try to start using robots at the end of the facility and they're having to deal with the variation, that's really challenging. So if you're building a robotic strategy, start at the beginning, start in gel coat lamination, and then work through your facility.
That makes sense. Jarrod, I wanted to ask you about manufacturing processes and emerging tech and how Garmin is using maybe robotics and maybe automation and things like that to be more efficient and be able to produce more products and things along that line. What is Garmin doing kind of in that area without revealing any of your future roadmap and secret sauce, as far as that's concerned?
Well, I think the production areas, like you mentioned, and operations areas are some of the key areas that can benefit from robotics or other automation. So we certainly use it with certain manufacturing processes. We do most of our manufacturing in-house, and so we try to tightly control that, and some robotic stations help. We want to have the right mix of kind of the human oversight with the robotics to increase and maximize the quality. So that's really the goal is maximize the quality of the output, and too much robotics could be a problem. No robotics, may not be as good either. And then the distribution systems, there's been a lot of technology improvements and distribution, like warehouse management, things like that, where we're using automated storage retrieval systems for parts or even for finished goods on smaller things. That's been really beneficial just with the advancements in those type of automated systems.
It's going to be interesting to see how you guys implement that. It's 9:30. That went fast. Thank you guys so much for sitting with me and talking about this stuff. I find it very interesting, and I can't wait to see what your companies do going forward.
Awesome.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Jarrod, thank you.
Absolutely,
Really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thanks
nice to
for
meet you.
the
Absolutely,
feedback
John.
yesterday. It was very helpful.
No worries. Yeah, I just thought.